Well, hey everybody, welcome to another session with Pastor Andre. Olivier from Rivers Church. We're talking cultures of generosity, raising the level of sowing, investing and giving in our churches. And so in the second session, we're going to be talking specifically about raising capital, capital campaigns, vision offerings, miracle offerings, those times in the life of our church and in our church calendar where we're specifically focused on raising capital for a particular purpose in order to move the church forward. Pastor Andre, thanks again so much for your time.
Pleasure. Great to be with you.
Previous session, we spoke a little bit about raising the watermark of the finances in our churches. Today, or in this session, we're going to talk more around raising capital, raising finance. For many years, you guys have done something which you call miracle offering. Others may know it as a heart for the house or a vision offering. Talk to us a little bit about the thinking, the theology, the value system behind your miracle offering.
We found that miracle offering probably biblically has its roots in 1 Chronicles 29 with King David raising money for the temple over and above the treasury, over and above the normal running of the country, putting God first and preparing for the next generation. So miracle offering really is about providing buildings, because buildings are for the next generation. We're already getting older. We will leave them and provide them an asset for the future. So miracle offering is over and above your normal expansion, development, screens, resources, travel, repairing the building, hosting conferences. It's more about the big assets, and it's an opportunity for people to sow and believe for a miracle because they put in God first.
Right.
David was told that if when you put my house first, I'll put your house first. And so we view it as an opportunity for people to sow, believing for a miracle, not buying a miracle, but they believe in God that as they put him first, then he will provide,
Right. In the early days, how long have you been doing this? Let me start there.
I can't remember. I think it's about 18 years, 15 years.
So in the early days, when the offering wasn't necessarily able to buy a building or a piece of land of itself, how did you position it with the congregation? To say, it's obviously for the future expansion. How did you bring an immediacy to it?
That's a good question, actually, because it takes me back. I need to remember that. It takes me back to the days when we didn't have a projector.
Yeah.
And we were one of the first churches to buy a projector. It was 38,000 Rand. I mean, sure, those days you could buy a car for that. You buy a brand new Audi. So that was a massive expense. We presented that to the church and people gave to that. And then we did away with an overhead projector. So those kind of things, air conditioning in the building, we believe for that. And then we got aircon, which enabled us to put more people in the building. So we always presented a vision of where we needed to go, what we needed to improve that we couldn't do out of tithes and offerings.
Great.
Then eventually it became buildings and land, and we've got so much property now by God's grace, but it came from those miracle offerings. And I want to say this important. One year we decided to give the entire miracle offering to the poor.
Great.
We made it a miracle offering purely for the poor, and we didn't spend it on ourselves, and bought a number of vehicles for Jesus Alive Ministries, a whole fleet of them, gave money away. And that was like a pause, like the Sabbath, every seventh year, we've kind of done that. So
fantastic. So things that move the vision forward. Would you be happy with that summary if I was to say to somebody?
Yes, things that move the vision forward.
Move the vision
and
forward.
Vision always generates money.
Right, Let's talk about that. People give to vision, not budget. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes, absolutely. Firmly believe that. I think we make a mistake when we highlight debt. And we highlight running expenses. The best thing to do is to talk about reaching the lost, the future, what we need to keep doing, how we need to touch the lives of people. During COVID, we've spoken about our buildings because people think, you don't need your buildings, We have to remind them, hey, we have to pay, we have to keep looking after them, we have to pay rates and taxes and maintenance and all that sort of stuff. So we've reminded them, but generally we don't do that because people are not inspired by that. They're inspired by what's next. What's the vision? What are we going to improve? What are we going to get? Each building that we've come, 3 buildings standing in a row here, each building's, we've been pointing to it, We're going there. We're going to build over there. And then in that building, we're going to build over here. And then we're going to, we're wanting to buy Kyle Army and then, Durban North and Belito and so on. So we keep pointing to vision, and miracle offering facilitates that.
Sure. It's almost like a bit of a virtuous circle, hey, because the more you talk vision, the more you attract people of vision. who are generally people of resource.
Yes.
So it's like one of the most powerful things we can do as leaders, isn't it?
Yes.
To keep talking vision, keep vision leaks, Bill Hybels said it.
Yes,
So
very important.
Topping up the vision bucket.
Yes, because if you stop vision, well, then where are you going?
Yeah.
You've got maintenance. And if you're scared of presenting vision, well, then you're going to attract people who don't want vision.
Sure.
We just want to meet on the weekend,
Yeah.
We don't just talk of money all the time. And why do we have to get bigger? That person can go to another church and there's room for them. Praise God for that. But if you want to be a leader who has impact, who makes a difference and changes your world, you've got to attract visionary people.
Yeah.
And present vision generates income.
It takes resource to change the community, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely, yeah.
So can we talk for a few minutes about how you guys have done miracle offering in the past? Like maybe you could just talk us through the process for somebody watching today who's never done one before, from conceptualization, settling on the text maybe that you're going to teach out of, through to the planning of it, the actual execution of it.
Okay.
Just give the guys a bit of a sense as to how that.
Got to cast my mind back. Some of the stuff is instinctive.
Yeah.
So you kind of do it without thinking. Yeah, I think that you've asked the question well, the text. Something clear, not ambiguous.
Right.
We're very, very cautious about catchphrases, lest some people don't get it.
Yeah.
That's a great catchphrase. Well, some are like, what's that?
Yeah.
So a clear thing, clear goal, clear vision. We normally print a brochure. We used to print a full brochure.
Right.
Each campus does that now. Pictures of what we're doing, what our next steps are, what it's going to take. Then inside, why are we giving? What should you give? And then how?
Right.
You can give cash, you can give
Right.
by EFT, you can give, We don't have pledges because we think that creates guilt. Also, it creates a sense of, I'm going to pledge R1 million, and then further down the road, you don't even give 100,000.
Right.
It's too nebulous. And churches that do it, that's okay. We found cash in hand is better. Right. To say at the end of that week, the weekend and the week to announce to the church we managed to raise, 5 million, 10 million, 15 million. I think our highest has been 34 million.
Sure.
This is what we got. Thank you for your giving. We found that even when you announce it, other people start going, what?
Yeah.
I want to be part of that. And then they start giving. They give right in. We have miracle offering in November usually. People give right into February.
Yeah.
You still see MO, coming in. It's like, wow, what prompted that? Because we didn't have pledges. They wanted to be part of this event.
Yeah.
So that brochure, the guidelines, special envelopes.
Yeah.
Also, the way we do it, we just do it differently. I mean, you need good security. We get the people to come down to the front during worship. And in this big building, they come down to the balcony, come down to the back of the auditorium, come down to the front. We have buckets, we have security, and they bring the offering. Moses was told, take an offering from the people. And then it says, and everyone willing must bring an offering. So you take it, but they also bring it. Yeah. So miracle offering, we do that kind of thing where you come down, you bring it. Everyone feels a sense of participation. We have a card that you write your prayer request on.
Yeah.
Now, these are things I'm believing God for. My miracle. You keep half of it because that's your record in your Bible, the day you sowed and so on. And the other one you put into like a big dish. We have big copper dishes and we hold them before the Lord and we pray over them. And they make a little bit of a ceremony out of it. We have a normal service. We don't make that the day. We still have preaching and teaching. We don't just preach on money on that day.
Yeah.
We preach on vision because you've got visitors.
Yeah.
And you want to feed your people, not just get money out of them because they have weekly needs.
Sure.
So we've got to be careful. It doesn't become about us and our vision.
Yeah.
It's still about them and their needs. And you teach them, if you're going to teach them on money, they'll be able to go away and do stuff. Right. It's not like, gee, he twisted our arm last week, but this week he's really got it up behind our backs. Yeah. Man, is he good.
Yeah.
You got to watch that because that's a temptation and a tendency if you're not careful. So I think we strike the balance.
Yeah.
You ask some of our team, I think they tell you we do. And then you stir and encourage people to faith. Faith to give, faith to the vision, and faith to believe for themselves.
Yeah, because people can kind of smell it when it's about the church versus about them. Hey?
Yes.
When a church is feeding its people well.
Yes. You've got to be careful of being a leader who goes to a church and tries to prove to other churches that you're better than them. And the vision becomes all about you, your buildings, your campus, what you are doing, and how you can talk about that. And your people are a means to your end rather than God's end.
Sure.
It's a subtle thing, and I don't say that to condemn anybody.
Yeah.
My motives over the years, as I've grown in the Lord, I've had to be, you've got to watch that. And sometimes you see it in others more easily than you go, oh, I've got to watch that in me.
Yeah.
Because that's a danger. It's about them. It's about the Lord, and God is big enough to to do it. You don't have to manipulate.
Sure.
Because you'll never be happy. You'll always feel guilty.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bless them, and build the kingdom.
Sure.
And
anything you over the years, as you look back, you wouldn't do for miracle offering? Like any school fees you could help the guys with?
I feel bad to say
epic
it.
Fails, you know.
No, I feel bad. Maybe I should could ask our team if they were here. But I feel that we've pretty much got it right most of the time, and we've struck the balance.
Great.
I've never wondered, funny enough, like we could have got more.
Sure.
We didn't push hard enough.
It is what it is. Hey?
Yes, we should have been bolder, you know. We've never got that sense, and we've never come away where people have complained. Gee, I thought we really pushed too hard there, and we've got a lot of complaints. I haven't found that. I found each year that we feel happy that we presented it right. It was that moment, that season.
In a life-giving way, hey?
Yes, and God responded, the people responded, and everyone's rejoicing. Next.
Yeah.
I suppose as many years as we've done it, and years of experience, so...
Yeah. Tough times financially, the temptation might be to shrink back and not do it. Could you speak into that?
Yes, I think there's a slight balance there, if I can use the term. I think with COVID especially, we felt last year that we didn't want to take up a miracle offering or make it a formal thing. Number one, we weren't in the building. We felt that we didn't fully understand how much pressure people were under financially. Businesses, people losing their jobs, people not being able to go to work. We were in lockdown for months on end.
Yeah.
So we didn't feel it was the right timing to present that. Plus, we never had an imminent building because we weren't in buildings.
Sure.
So it was almost like the wrong thing to do. We said, if you want to give, it's free will offering. You can give freely, no pressure, believe God for your miracle. And that's how we opened the door. And there was no complaints, and we had a response. But it wasn't the usual. We just felt it was appropriate not to do that.
Sure.
So I think you do need to be sensitive.
Understand the times.
Understand the times and the burdens that your people carry.
Yeah.
We don't want to put a burden on anyone.
Yeah. And also hear from God as to what he might be saying for your community at that time. Hey?
And to be fair, I have to say this, to be fair, our expenses were reduced during COVID.
Sure.
Because we weren't running. I mean, we saved hundreds of thousands of rand, in fact, millions over the year on security.
Sure.
Because we didn't have personal guarding and the whole system that we have. We only had the 24-hour guards. We didn't need all that. We didn't have the expenses, the electricity bills we have are enormous. We didn't have that. So there were a lot of things that didn't cost us money. So we were actually saving money. It wasn't fair to ask for more when the church wasn't actually in trouble.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so we felt it was a reasonable thing to do,
How would you make a decision like that? For somebody watching today, they might be wondering, how do you go about making a big call like that? Would you gather your exec team around? Do you gather your elders round? Do you bounce it around? Do you have a strong sense yourself to start?
Yeah, very strong sense myself. I would bring that to my senior team and talk to them, say, Wilma and I would chat first, and then I'd bring that to them and say, this is what I'm feeling. And everybody would bring their perspective and point of view.
Yeah.
I might bring it to the eldership, or I certainly would inform them.
Yeah.
Might not ask their permission, or, bring that to them as like, what do you think we should do?
Yeah.
We seldom make decisions on that basis. We very much have our vision and values in place, so we kind of know what to do.
Yeah,
it's like you got your spiritual foundation, but then it's your common sense, that you.
Yeah.
What's a common sense thing to do right now?
Yeah.
And I think we can sometimes be super spiritual, and then we can miss the mark.
Yeah.
So I would bring that to the senior team with my wife. We'd talk about it, then bring it to eldership and say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're not doing, and then we'd move forward on that, and that's how we did it last year.
Great. Some of the ways that you communicate vision, speaking to pastors and leaders, how can they communicate vision well? You've mentioned testimonies. So always getting, story, the power of a good story, narrative, biblical teaching. Is there anything else that you'd say if you want to communicate vision, this is really important?
Yeah, I think, obviously using the screens and using print matter, that we've got to weigh that up.
In front of them, hey?
People, if they can visualize something, it's a lot easier, I think. That's why I use visuals when I preach, because I think it helps us. We're a very visual age, screens, everything screens in front of us. So I think that's important to communicate it. I would say don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Great.
So don't get ideas where you kind of go off on a tangent and you kind of like, we're going to do this, and we're going to church, we're believing for that, and it becomes rash. Present them something sensible rather come later and say, we were going to do this, but actually we managed to do that. Everyone celebrates that because it's rather than, church, we were going to buy a building, but now actually we're just going to rent.
Very good.
We were going to open another service, but actually now we're actually closing one down.
Sure.
You've got to be careful of how you present anything, because you get confidence. Confidence gets built and buy-in. Otherwise, you can end up with the congregation losing confidence in you.
Yeah.
So that is what you need if you're going to raise money. We're talking money here.
Sure.
Money is given. It's trust. It's change in your pocket. The more confidence, the more money.
And it's amazing how quickly confidence and trust can be eroded. Hey?
That's right. Just one bad event or one miss of the mark.
Yeah.
So we've tried to manage that carefully. I'm sure we don't always get it right, but
one badly positioned sell, for want of a better word.
Yes. And be careful of saying the Lord said.
Yeah.
Take responsibility for it yourself and rather,
Yeah, absolutely. A pastor who may say to you, Pastor Andre, I don't know if I'm gifted for raising money. How would you respond to them?
Gosh, maybe they're not. And I have seen some really struggle.
Yeah.
For some husbands, if you think about it, they're not good with money. Their wife should actually run the budget in homes because they're more gifted.
Yeah.
And it's not a man's role or a woman's role. It's who's best in this partnership.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think that could happen. I think get people on your team who are.
Sure.
So for instance, I'm fairly good with running and managing money, but I have a business manager who's absolutely astute, who understands property, understands the law, understands balance sheets, financials. He operates at that level, which I don't need to.
Yeah.
So but I think when it comes to raising money, it is largely attached to vision.
Yeah.
So if you can't raise money, I think somewhat of it is you can't communicate vision.
I was just going to say
and
that
maybe
linked.
Yes, but don't say woe is me and like, oh gosh, that means I'm disqualified. Get help. Use team. You got amongst you guys, you got a great team. Draw someone else. Get them to speak for you.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, and I don't do it as much now. I do it on other campuses, but I've been invited to speak at churches who were doing building programs.
Yeah.
Would you come speak and teach on finding a way to win and help people see vision? And I've done that.
Yeah.
And so you use people who are sort of strong in that area to do for you what you can't do.
Yeah.
And you get resources. I brought my book with today just in case, because I knew we were going to talk about money. And I've forgotten how comprehensive this is because I wrote it a few years ago.
Yeah.
But it's pretty comprehensive. Get some skills from reading and then using the right people. It doesn't mean our church will never get it right.
Good.
I think you can.
Yeah.
You may not be gifted, but you can acquire that skill.
That's right. You can skill up. You can figure out who the people around you are.
You can. What do they say? None of us are born leaders.
Yeah.
They say you're a born leader. No, not necessarily. You can be a trained leader.
That's right.
And Abraham had those 319 men trained in his own household who went to battle. Moses chose leaders. They had different levels of skill, but they were trained. And I think we need to train people, and you can acquire things. You can do things you never thought you could do.
Yeah.
Sure. I found that's true of me.
Absolutely.
I never imagined we could preach and run a large church. It wasn't on my radar. I always thought I'd be in business.
Sure.
So
very helpful. I think what you're surfacing is realize if there's a limitation, to address it, not simply to sort of accept it, like you say, woe is me, sit back and put your hands up.
Yeah.
But to say there's got to be somebody on my team or in my church who can help with this.
Yes.
And there's got to be a way I can skill up. There's got to be a way that I can learn and get sharper.
There are two aspects there, and I probably went a little bit off the point because we talked about management and talked about my business manager. But in terms of creating vision, if you feel you can't raise money, get people in. I've had guest speakers. So I brought a man called Andrew Denton. He's a businessman in Australia, elder at Hillsong Church. He's given millions to the church, and he spoke peer-to-peer at Miracle Offering and inspired the congregation because he was a businessman speaking to business people and inspiring them to get behind their pastor. So it's very important to have that. Also, what I do before Miracle Offering is I personally share the vision with the gifted givers, that select group. Tell them where we're going, give them a heads up and an inside view. And then by the time we get to present Miracle Offering, they're like, we're on the same page. We know where we're going. We've been told because they need a little bit of that edge, if you like. That because they're giving something special,
Sure.
And people have said this to me. They've said, oh, you treat your gifted givers differently. Say yes. A volunteer who's here for 4 services on a weekend and is making sacrifices, I treat them differently. And a person who's giving millions of rand, hundreds of thousands of rand, of course I treat them differently. They show me they love the house, they're loyal, and they're generous. Of course I'm going to do that. I'm not playing to the money people. I'm just showing care for those who are standing with us in the vision. So,
yeah, absolutely. Maybe just as a last comment before we close, for somebody wondering whether they should do a miracle offering, a vision offering, a capital campaign, maybe just a sense as to what it's done for you guys at Rivers, like just the enormity of the way it's moved you forward. Just describe that for us in a minute or so.
Wow. The only way I can describe it to you, because I have to look over the period, we started out with one building in Sandton worth 350,000, with a bond on it of 60,000, which was considered a millstone.
Sure.
The elders were desperate to get rid of the bond. That's what I came to. Today, I think our property value is 600 million across the 5 campuses in asset value. That did not come out of my pocket or my genius. It's come out of a healthy church with a culture of giving on a consistent basis that has taken us to a level we could never have done through manipulation or clever gimmicks, just through healthy church life year after year after year. Leadership and vision on all our campuses. Our campus pastors have done that. That's got us to where we are. And we have got a platform now for the next generation. And whenever I think about it, I don't go, we own all that. I think about David, who provided for Solomon. And I feel, I've done that. And I'm still doing that. And the next generation will get benefit.
So good. So good. To look back, look around at what it is now, and then look forward. Fantastic. Thanks so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Loved the conversation. I know it's going to bless many, many churches, and I'm excited to think about what the future of their churches might be because of this conversation. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.